It's a pleasure to have you join us again on the program. I am Folashade Ogurinde. Effective from January 9, 2023, individuals will only be able to withdraw 100,000 naira per week, either over the counter, point of sale machines, or automated teller machines, that is ATM, while organizations can access 500,000 naira per week. In a memo signed by the CBN's Director of Banking Supervision, Haruna Mustafa, banks were also directed to load only 200 naira and lower denominations into their ATMs. However, there is an exemption that allows up to 5 million naira for individuals and 10 million naira for corporate organizations once a month with certain requirements. Well, for more insight into this development, economic expert Kalu Ajay joins me now. Thank you as always for joining us. So the fresh cash withdrawal limit has unsurprisingly elicited mixed reactions from Nigerians. But why is the central bank reducing cash withdrawals for Nigerians?
Hi, Paula. Great to be here again. I think it's all down to the Central Bank of Nigeria's cashless policy that was introduced a long time ago, right? So the CBN wants to make the Nigerian economy operate on a cashless basis. You know, cash is expensive to keep, to secure, to transfer. It's more cashless is more productivity, as they say, right? So this is a way to perhaps force Nigerians in using the stick approach to use less cash. It also would then mean that CBN is able to track transactions in the economy, right? Because if you are doing more of POS and bank transfers and checks, they can track it. And it's also, you can then apply more monetary policy to what you can track. We can see where money is going to, where money is coming from. So that's exactly why this is like a stake or a cost of carrying cash to force you not to use cash in the economy going forward.
Now, at the last MPC meeting, the CBN Governor, Godwin Emefiele, disclosed that the Apex Bank is planning to reduce the volume of higher denominations in circulation to tame inflation. Do you think this policy can indeed tame inflationary pressure?
I don't think so. I think the inflation in Nigeria is really lack of supply, right? So rice is expensive in Nigeria because there's not enough rice in Nigeria. So simply taking away the cash in circulation will not make rice output increase. Inflation in Nigeria has got to be fought by increasing the supply of products in the market, so that way the prices can fall. So I'm not really sure if this will have an effect on inflation. You can write a check and buy rice, and you're going to write that check at a higher price, right? So the floods have come in quarter 4. That's going to make food prices go up. Food prices will not come down because you don't have cash. Sellers are going to ask for other means of payment for their rice. Mm-hmm.
Now, part of the effects of this policy is that Nigerians will only be able to withdraw 20,000 naira per day from ATMs. To what extent will this affect the average Nigerian, especially business owners?
I mean, it's going to be a cost. You can do more, but you pay more. So you can see clearly what CBN is trying to do. They want to make it costly to hold cash. So I would say over the years, there have been lots of companies that have brought out, cash transfer, cash management software. I mean, the telcos now can give you a wallet on your phone. You don't have to have a smartphone, SMS enabled, to move cash around. So I would say if you are in the city or a place that's got GSM service, you really don't have any, should we say, maybe quote unquote excuse. There are lots of options now for you to transit away from a fully cash business. The real pain might be felt in the rural areas where they don't have GSM, so they can't do the wallet banking and all that. That's where the pain might be felt. But then again, you then get more higher financial inclusion. That's more opportunities for providers of this kind of service to go to rural areas and then offer POS and e-naira banking services there. So I would say, yes, it's going to be a pain, but that's the whole idea. They want to cause the pain to make it transit away from cash to cashless banking.
Talking about the cons now, the word out there is that the unbanked will suffer the effects of this policy. But do you not think this development will be a drawback to the federal government's financial inclusion drive?
Not so much. I think it's the opposite way, because what will happen now is that the unbanked, with the telcos specifically, have an option. If you have a phone, not even a smartphone, as long as you can do SMS text, you can have a wallet and you can do your transactions. Your phone number is essentially your bank account number right now. So if you're a plumber and you want to receive 200 naira payments with your phone, you can, and you can make payments as well from your phone. So there's going to be an increased financial inclusion. Where we will really see a fall and a drop off is going to be in areas where there is no GSM service whatsoever, because the banks haven't gone there, the telcos have gone there. So where you don't have GSM services is where you find a fall off. But in terms of inclusion, I think that might even go higher. We just saw the GSM, the telco numbers newly released, I think for October 2022, that showed the highest proportion of Nigerians now having active telco lines. So this is a positive and an enabler to a cashless banking driven by mobile devices. Yeah.
So let's talk about the e-Naira. Do you think this new policy will in any way support the e-Naira initiative?
e-Naira has suffered from lack of, should we say, promotion or knowledge. No one knows what the e-Naira is, right? That's why it has suffered. It's blockchain enabled. It should be up and running, because the government could simply say, if you want to do a business with the government, you have to do e-Naira. But they haven't, because lots of downloads, but very, very low usage. So in terms of the opportunities for e-Naira, I would say this helps it, because now the government could say, you want to do cashless banking, so you're going to pay us for CFO, or you want to pay for passports, you have to use e-Naira. That may work. So it's left to the government to promote the e-Naira better. People have downloaded the wallets and just don't know what to do with it. What next, And the banks have also, I know a bank that has brought its own wallet out, POS-less POS banking. That's very, very innovative. So the CBN has a lot of work to do. It's got to basically sell this better, and then have to look at this, see the advantage, and then start to use it. Yeah.
Now, finally, before I let you go, definitely the CBN is trying to get control of Nigeria's money supply through this policy. But in the long run now, do you see this achieving what the CBN sets out to achieve?
Yeah, so great question. So CBN's long-term goal is to have more monetary, should we say, they want to make their monetary policy work or to be more effective in the economy. CBN has said there's lots of cash outside circulation or outside the banks. So when they do monetary policy, like when they raise interest rates, it has a limited effect because cash is already outside. So their thinking is that if they restrict cash transactions, then more money is going to be in the formal banking system. It could be banks, it could be telcos, but would be in that formal space. Thus, they can then do monetary policy and have a higher effect. That is left to be seen. I would say the pathway is there for the CBN to achieve this objective. It's really going to be how they're able to pull in stakeholders and sell this. It has to be the stick and the carrot. The stick is out there. They've reduced the cash limits. They have to put the carrots out there. Also reduce or eliminate ATM fees for withdrawals across the banks. Also make it very, very easy to transfer money at no cost, but from telcos to banks. So make it easy, then people will be incentivized also to put their money in the banks. And that way, CBN's monetary policy can then work once the cash is in the banks. Cash isn't supposed to be in the banks, right? It's supposed to be out in the economy. But CBN wants it to be there or to have oversight over it. So incentivize people, and they might just listen to that.
Now, definitely, as the year progresses, say, for instance, in 2023, more Nigerians will have to resort to, electronic transfer of money. But do you think Nigeria's, infrastructure is ready right now in the banking sector to accommodate the millions of transactions that will be going on when this policy kicks off in January 2023?
I think so. Not just the banks. I think the banks are going to be complemented by the telcos. I have more faith in the telcos to do this financial inclusion part of the whole cashless policy than the banks, because they're just more POS machines. They're just more phones than bank branches. So your phone now, if you use the two major telecom carriers in Nigeria, your phone is your bank. So we're talking about 214 million bank branches, if you're looking at the phones, right, that are out there. So I trust the telcos more. There's going to be more reach. And like I said, the CBN has got to really go out and talk to NCC, talk to other players, even the post office, and get more people into this trade. It just can't be a banking thing. Banking is not just done by banks. So we have to expand that definition, bring in more stakeholders, get more value addition to the cashless side. So people see a need to avoid carrying cash, right? I use plastic because it's just convenient. But people in Nigeria have to carry cash because ATMs could fail. You're on the weekend, your kid is having an issue, you need to go pay, and people insist on cash. So the environment has got to allow cashless transactions. CBN has a lot of work to do in this regard. But again, it's a good policy. They are doing the best that they can do, and I think we should give them time to roll this out, and let's see what can happen and where they can fix going forward. Yeah.
Well, it's definitely a wait-and-see situation, but economic expert Kalu Aja, thank you very much for your time and contribution. Well, we'll take a breather here, but money matters. We'll be back shortly. To stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Nigeria has approved the construction of a 1,650 megawatt hydropower plant at a cost of $3 billion, making it one of the single biggest power projects in the country. The project to be funded under a public-private partnership arrangement and located in the north-central state of Benue. The latest hydropower plant comes as Nigeria struggles with low power output and limited transmission infrastructure, leaving many households and businesses reliant on diesel power generators. Joining me on the program is Chukwueloka Ume, the Chief Executive Officer of Century Power Generation. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, what do you make of this development, especially with regards to Nigeria's situation with electricity and power transmission?
Adding 1,650 megawatts of electricity to the Nigerian grid is a very good thing, considering that we are currently doing about 4,000 megawatts of power, almost reliably. So we need more power, more steady, affordable power, and so this project will be good. However, the devil is always in the detail. Conceiving the power plant is great, but can we finish it? So you have to consider the other big plants that we're supposed to do in Nigeria was the Mambila power plant that was supposed to be about 3,050 megawatts, and it was supposed to cost $5.8 billion. That plant was conceived in 1972, 50 years ago. Until today, it hasn't seen the light of day. The new schedule shows that we are supposed to finish it in 2030, barely 6 years from now. But when you ask the question, where are we on that, I'm not sure what answer you're going to get. So having these plants conceived is great. It will be good for the grid, it will be good for the Nigerian people, but then can we actually finish it? And it brings us back to the same question that I always ask. Should government really be putting money into power projects, or should they leave it entirely to the private sector to do? And I think the answer is obvious. The private sector needs to drive these power plants and these projects.
Now, how much of an impact will the hydropower project have on Nigeria's power sector when it finally kicks off?
You know, at the end of the day, I've always said that for us to make any appreciable impact in Nigeria's electricity industry, we have to have reliably about 40,000 megawatts of capacity running. Remember that we have about 200 million people, according to our census. and we're still producing 4,000 megawatts or less. Compare that to our neighbor Egypt. With half our population, they're producing about 57 to 58,000 megawatts of electricity. So we haven't even scratched the surface in Nigeria. And so any power we can add to the grid, no matter the cost, will be good for our grid, will be good for the people. So 1,650 megawatts added will be great. And coming from hydro is cheaper than most other means of electricity generation. So this will be good for the grid. It will help stabilize our network, and it will also help get more power out to those that can afford it, those that need it within the country.
Well, looking at all the modalities now, will these hydropower projects be the solution to Nigeria's electrification problem?
You know, I think that those that tell you that the problem that we have in Nigeria is only in distribution or only in transmission or only in generation don't understand the industry. We have a problem across the entire value chain of the power industry. I'll give you an example. If we bring on that power plant to generate 1,650 megawatts of electricity, how do we transmit that power to the grid? You need to build transmission lines, right? Transmission infrastructure. Today, our transmission infrastructure can possibly carry up to 7,000 megawatts if everything works well. And remember, we already have an installed capacity of about 12,500 megawatts in the country. Although some of that capacity will never come online because some of the equipment is very old and will never run again. So assuming all is well, there's no space to have that 16,500 or 1,650 megawatts to come on the grid. Now, if we build transmission infrastructure specifically for that hydro plant, what about the rest of the grid? You know, a lot of it is decrepit and needs to be brought up to standard. So I say that the problem is across the entire value chain. And I tell folks, you know, we need to look from the production. In fact, even if you're thinking of thermal plants, for example, there's problem with the gas production, gas transportation. Then there's GENCO, there's problem with the generation. There are issues with transmission, you know. And then finally, the distribution networks have problems. So we sold distribution networks, right? And out of the networks that were sold in the country, already 5 of them have failed, and AMCON has taken over 5 of them. You know, we said this many years ago. Some of these assets were bought over by people that don't understand anything about power. And also the regulations in the country have made it very difficult for the people that bought these distribution networks to make the right level of investments to bring the networks up to code, right? So we're continuing seeing problems across the value chain. So for us to make any appreciable difference in the power sector, you know, whoever becomes the next president of this country needs to treat the sector as an existential problem for us. You know, they need to declare a state of emergency in the electricity industry. And my take is that we need to relax the regulations sufficiently to allow private investors come in and make the right level of investment in the industry, and allow the system to grow, allow the networks to grow organically, you know, and then you can regulate. But what we're trying to do is put the cart before the horse. You cannot regulate a market into existence. So we spend a lot of time creating regulations, but we don't spend enough time allowing the industry to grow. And year in, year out, you find government putting this small intervention here, that small intervention there, trying to help the whole system, and it's not working. It will never work until we do it the proper way.
Now tell us, what's the difference between the hydropower project and the Mambila project, and what must be done to ensure that the hydropower project does not go the same way like that of the Mambila, which till now has not really been able to materialize?
You know, I already see an issue that they're going to run into. You know, there's the issue of regulation, there's issue of who will buy the power and who will pay for the power when it comes on the grid. Already you have several government parastatals involved. There's the BPE, involved Bureau of Public Enterprise. You have the NCP. You have the Ministry of Power. Several other parastatals are already involved. And what happens is that you're going to have so much bureaucracy that getting the project off the ground will be a challenge. What I would advise rather is to scale back on the government involvement here. The Ministry of Power is responsible for making sure that this product gets to the people. That's it. Limit what we're doing to the Ministry of Power and then let the private entities that are involved in this project be the ones to actually drive the project. Let them select the EPC contractor, select all the people that are going to do the work, get the financing, and go and do the project. But then, more critically, who will buy it? Who is going to sign a power purchase agreement with this entity? Is it going to be NBET, the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company? Or is it going to be DISCOs directly? Should they be dealing directly with the DISCOs? These are the questions that we need to answer. And in my opinion, we need to get to a point where a power producer like this hydro plant should be selling power directly to power traders that will now sell the power to the different DISCOs that want to buy the power. It sounds very easy as I'm saying it. However, other countries have done this. And since Nigerians are very quick to copy from other countries, we need to copy correctly and implement something that will work in our environment and in our very peculiar environment. Ultimately, the fix for our power industry in Nigeria will be where we have a case of willing buyer, willing seller. Someone produces electricity with whatever fuel they want, either it's gas or coal, or whether they're producing with solar, wind, or hydro. They should be able to deal with a power trader, someone that buys the power and then sells it to either distribution networks or directly to an off-taker, whether it's a large industrial complex or large companies or even an estate, a residential estate. DISCOs should ultimately be the owners of infrastructure that allows the power to get to the last mile. So infrastructure in terms of the wires, the transformers, that allows someone, a power trader, to get this power directly to the off-takers. That's where we need to go. And the monopolies that we see today should be relaxed. So if a DISCO has, I say, monopoly of a certain area, that DISCO's job should simply be providing the infrastructure for different power traders to now sell power to the off-takers. That's the ultimate destination that we should be going as a country. And people should be able to generate power wherever they want within the country and using whatever means that they want within the country. What we're seeing today as well is we are so focused, the regulator is so focused on making sure that the cost of electricity is kept low. But when you keep the cost of electricity low, that means that the actual product, the electricity, is not really going to be produced at the speed that we want, because the investor wants to make sure that the investment they make will bear the return on the investment that they plan. And this is not what we're seeing. So this is, in a nutshell, what I think needs to happen. And it's for the next government that's coming in to do. But what I see currently happening with this 1650 megawatt plants in Benue, I don't really think it's going to work in the current iteration that they have it in. That's my opinion.
Chukweloka Ume, the Chief Executive Officer of Century Power Generation, thank you very much for your time and your contribution. And we've come to the end of the program. To join us again next time, I am Folashade Ogurinde. Bye for now.